Have you ever wondered what goes on in a great conversation between really great thinkers? In today's video, we're going to look at very briefly the great books of the Western world, and especially these first two volumes of the Index and the great ideas that we can listen in on as we increase our learning capacity through a study of great books, great ideas, the liberal arts, humanities. Call it what you want. It's an amazing journey, and I invite you to take it with me. I'm Dr. Jeff Kreh. I'm your host for studying great ideas through the Western canon. And this morning we're going to be looking at what makes this such a special opportunity and why, if you are wanting to think more deeply about big ideas, great ideas, those ideas that have troubled humans for the past 50 centuries or so, why this is such a wonderful way to study. One, you may not have a lot of time or a lot of money to invest in a deep study. If you're not in college, you probably don't have the time to just sit down, unless you're retired, and get into a deep study like this. The value of it, though, to be able to think in a deeply informed manner on great ideas that still trouble us today, it's just a priceless thing to give yourself and to equip yourself to be able to give to those that you love in your life. We live in a blended world, a world of good and evil, and there are some of the highest expressions of both good and evil, and the way that humans have thought about ideas from various perspectives on that continuum, from as good as God to as evil as evil can get. There's several ways of thinking about all sorts of ideas presented in these books. And so I want to encourage you to stay with us on this journey as we think about why would I even want to study great ideas. And again, if you've ever been in a room and people have been having a high level conversation and you kind of walk in on it midstream, and you're amazed at what you're hearing, but you don't really understand it, well, wouldn't it be nice to go back in that conversation all the way to the very beginning of it so that you could understand what they're talking about? These books represent an attempt in the mid-20th century to take 102 of the greatest ideas, about 600 or 700 full-length books, dozens and dozens of authors, and to look at the conversation that is unique to the Western world that these men and women have been having from the time of Moses and Homer, where you have someone write something down and then someone comes along, sometimes in the same generation, sometimes in a future generation, and they respond to or they refute what's going on there. And we have this rich conversation, this back and forth that goes on for, again, 50 or so centuries. And we get to jump into that conversation, and if we want to really understand where it's all coming from and the full story of the conversation so that we can share with others, then going all the way back to the beginning here to Homer, or going back to Moses and discussing these ideas is there's just no other good alternative for gaining the insight into that conversation. That again, this is a unique gift in history of mankind, and it's unique to the West. The Southern tradition, those great African thinkers and authors, well, they didn't start writing things down until kind of recently, especially compared to what we have behind me here. The Eastern authors, your Chinese and Indian and the authors from the Far East, they were writing a lot, but they weren't in conversation with each other like these authors are in conversation with each other. And so you can go in and cherry pick and find some good things, but there's a lot of time that gets spent in that. And again, you and I, our time is limited. And to be able to pick up a set of books like this, either in physical format, sometimes as cheaply as a couple $100s, or to get it digital through someone like Logos Bible Software has this available for, I think it's $400 or $500. You can get the set. Or you can go online and you can piece together through Oil Liberty Fund or through Gutenberg Project, or search different university websites. You can find all this information. But why would you want to do that? Well, quite simply, it is a shortcut to being involved in the great conversation that's been going on in the West for 50 centuries. And that gives you the ability, when you walk in on a great conversation taking place in the world around you, to very quickly orient yourself and participate in an informed and in an informed way that brings value to the conversation. And anytime you're talking about being in any kind of social environment, when you can bring value to a conversation, that makes you someone who is generally regarded as someone who brings value to the world around you. So there are a lot of great ideas in this series. And if you want to study on any number of 101 really big ideas, or about 4,000 smaller ideas, they took the time to index all of it for you. So that all you have to do is flip over to a topic like government, and there's a nice little essay that fills you in on the general development of that idea over 50 centuries. And then there are specific readings broken down into an outline format, and you can give yourself a doctoral level education just by engaging with these great ideas as they're laid out here. So you may not have the time. Well, don't waste your time going out and trying to reinvent the wheel. It's all right here in the great ideas within the great books. You may not have the money to go out and to buy all of these individual works. They've been collected for you, and it's very affordable compared to going out and buying individual copies of all these books. And you can get to them a lot more quickly than going and searching and trying to find digital copies online. Just to go ahead and get a physical copy, put it in your library. And you may not have the money, you may not have the time, you may not have the experience. These books are very forgiving. They orient you quickly into the study, and the main thing is you can participate in a conversation that's been going on for 50 or so centuries, and you can take the lessons from that. They have been so condensed and so organized for your study, and you can take the things you learn and you can pass them on to the next generation. You can join that conversation in the West that's been going on for so long, and you can be part of continuing that intellectual heritage. Whether you call it a liberal arts education or a humanities education or great books or great ideas education, that doesn't matter. We want to be more informed and more able to engage the world around us for good. And when we think of the big, and for me, the obvious reason why you would want to enter this study, it's because you've been made in the image of God with unlimited capacity, and you need to develop that for the good of yourself, for your relationship with God, and for your ability to communicate and interact with others. I hope this answers some questions why. If you want to go deeper, hit me up in the comments below.